Space, the final frontier. These are the podcasts of the podcast Enterprise. Its only mission to explore story structures, to analyze our favorite characters and plot lines, to boldly talk about what everyone has seen before. Hello and welcome everyone to Podcast Enterprise. This is a podcast series where we talk about Star Trek, the original series, all the episodes, the story structure, what we like, the character arc, everything. We dissect it to its last shred. I am Bala Ramadurai, and with me I have my co-host Parvati Ramkumar. Say hello, Parvati.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Podcast Enterprise. We're discussing Catspaw.
Catspaw. Okay, so maybe we'll have to summarize this.
Okay. We should.
Yes.
Okay. Captain Kirk is right. The USS Enterprise is in orbit around the planet Pyris 7. And there's something wrong because a landing party has gone missing on that planet. So the landing party has Sulu, Scott, and Crewman Jackson. They're not able to communicate with them, and there's some sort of subspace interference. So Uhura has not been able to contact them. They get a message from Jackson, who's promptly beamed back onto the Enterprise. There's a voice coming from his throat, but he's dead. Kirk realizes that there's a problem down there on that planet, and he must have himself, McCoy, and Spock transported down there and try and figure out what's going on. He leaves Salle in charge of the Enterprise, and these three they decide to go down and investigate what has happened. So now, while they are down there, they find that this planet is totally wrong. First off, there are mists where there shouldn't be mists, and there's a lot of fog where there shouldn't be fog. There are echoes of voices, and then they find three heads floating and screaming at them and talking about curses. Jackson, even though he was dead, warned them about being cursed. And now, down there on the planet, they see these three floating heads of witches who speak very melodramatically. They also warn the Enterprise of a curse of dying and they should keep away from that planet. But Kirk and the landing party decide to investigate. They navigate the fog. They find a big, huge medieval type castle. They enter the castle. They find a cat, a black cat, a very witchy looking cat. They follow the cat leads them here and there, and then ultimately, without them really realizing what is happening, they find themselves in a big, huge hall facing an individual called Korob. He's dressed like a wizard, he has a wand in his hand, he is able to talk to that cat. Korob is some sort of alien entity who thinks that he has understood humanity or he wants to understand humanity. He thinks that showing them castles, wizards, and cats and some sort of witchery will entice him. He also calls them honorable for some reason. He talks about loyalty and being very forthright. He attempts to tempt the landing crew with some food which they do not eat. Then he loses his cool a little bit and tries to tempt them with gemstones. Again, they're not impressed with that. The cat goes out of the room. It comes back as a woman who calls herself Sylvia. She's apparently the collaborator of Korob, and she has some sort of an evil streak to her. She has these three men imprisoned. This is the second time they're being imprisoned. They find that both McCoy and Sulu have been hypnotized and they're no longer on their side. They're on the side of those two aliens. The aliens have some sort of telekinetic power, and they also have the ability to override your free will and make you do what they want you to do. Kirk and the landing crew must find a way out of here. McCoy is also captured and brainwashed and turned against them. Korob is very disturbed by Sylvia's evil nature. She tells Kirk that she is experiencing sensation for the first time. She's infatuated with Kirk. Then she realizes that Kirk is returning her affection by trying to get her wand for some reason, because that is a transmuter that changes the environment, and both of these aliens are dependent on those transmuters. They have to use those transmuters and create an environment that is suitable for them. They also are here apparently to study humanity. Kirk manages to fool Sylvia by pretending to be affectionate with her. She realizes it a little too late, and Kirk and Spock returned to the dungeons. They managed to get out of there with Korob's help. And then the cat, Sylvia is apparently able to change form. She's able to take on the form of that cat. She tries to threaten them. Kirk and the crew somehow, through some sort of mind trickery, they manage to evade her. He gets the transmuter wand that she's been using. That is the device that has created the castle, and that is the device that allows Sylvia and Korob to change shape. It is the device that has created some sort of a hospitable area within that planet. He destroys the transmuter, both, and then what happens is the castle disappears, the torture room disappears, the dungeon disappears, everything disappears, including the forms that Sylvia and Korob have taken. Now, because they have lost their forms and the transmuter has been destroyed, both of those aliens who resemble tiny puppets, they fall over and die, and Kirk and the crew are able to go back to the Enterprise. So that's it, Bala. Back to you.
It's a miracle how you could sum the whole thing up, but yes, you did it. That was a tricky episode to summarize like that. It starts with the teaser where Jackson is dead. We get to know that this is a very strange planet and that Jackson, who is dead, is now speaking. So that's something, and that too in a very echoey kind of thing you see. That's how the teaser is. The first act starts with the landing party of the trio, McCoy, Spock, and Kirk, beaming to the surface of the planet with Salle in command. They go there and find the fog that Parvati already described in a summary. And at the end of that first act, they get more about this mystery. They find where Sulu and Scotty are. They are under mind control. Initially, Kirk is very happy that they found Scotty and Sulu. However, they realize that these guys are not under their own control. They are under something else's control. A nightmare, as describes it. That's the end of the first act, where Kirk and Spock are imprisoned. Scotty and Sulu and McCoy are imprisoned, and Scotty and Sulu have a phaser in their hand, and they're going to get the three out there, but to somewhere we don't know. The second act, we the Scotty and Sulu lead McCoy and Spock to this genie-like dude, the wizard or whoever, with a wand and sparkly costumes. He calls himself Korob, and apparently he's not native. That's what he reveals about himself. And there's this black cat, and he keeps talking. In fact, the cat keeps talking to Korob, and Korob seems to understand the cat. At the end, we see that they have some super duper powers, and that they can actually perform voodoo kind of a thing with the spaceship's model. Sylvia hovers the model on top of a flame. Kirk finds out that the temperature inside the ship is past degree Fahrenheit in barely in 30 seconds. They are burning up. A dire situation for the ship. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are imprisoned and have nothing, no phases, no communicators. When he has the communicator, he finds out that the ship is in trouble. That's the end of the second act. The third act starts off with Kirk trying to help out the ship from down there, but he can't because there's no effect of bypass. And Kirk says, okay, fine, you win, I lose. And Sylvia lets. So we know that this is Sylvia. The cat is nothing but the woman Sylvia, and somehow there's something going on between Sylvia and Korob. They are not really seeing eye to eye. That's the start of the third act. More trouble for the ship because there's a force field all around it, and Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are back in the dungeon. There seems to be no hope for the ship nor for these people. And as when Korob at the end of the third act releases them, they find out there's a growling cat shadow which is huge. So there's a giant cat which is going to attack them. That's what they realize, and it's going to get them soon. The fourth act starts with them getting a phaser, but it seems like it's all drained out. There's a large cat pushing at the door, and the door apparently kills Korob or is badly injured. That's how the fourth act starts. Now they're ready to get out. And of course, fourth act has a mandatory fist fight. They're all fighting each other. At the end, there are two blue chickens who suddenly die, and that's the end. End of the fourth act. At the end of the fourth act, Kirk says everything is back to normal. No, Scotty says everything is back to normal. They realize, hey, wait a second, Jackson did die at the start of the episode, so
Yes.
they're mourning his death then at the end.
Yep.
And I was glad that this got over. Uh, so, what did you think of Catspaw?
I don't know what to think really. I'm so confused. Okay. So one thing I did
That's
like,
because
yeah,
I'll tell you why. I'll
yeah,
tell you
yeah.
why. Because it is directly aimed at your subconscious. Your conscious mind is not able to make
Oh, my
sense of
poor
it.
subconscious,
That's
it's
what it is.
probably fried already from the magics in this one. It was, I'm not sure. You know, I think it had some promise in the beginning because the
Right.
appearance of the witches was a little corny, but it was also
Uh,
quite unexpected. Considering they
right.
were floating in midair, you only see their heads and some sort of a turtleneck outfit that they seem to be wearing. That's about all you
Yeah.
see.
Very Macbethish, I thought.
Yes,
Like three witches
yeah,
giving out these, what do you call them, prophecies and curses. So, I don't know.
yeah.
Very Shakespearean.
True,
Yeah.
the beginning to Macbeth is Enter 3, which is a dramatic beginning to the landing party down there. They had this way of talking and trying to warn them off, which is not exactly effective as you saw.
But
Yeah.
nicely summed up by Spock. He says bad poetry.
Bad poetry, very bad
That's
poetry.
the best way to summarize that sequence.
Poetry. Very bad poetry and terrible execution.
And the turtlenecks, of course.
And the
Yes.
turtlenecks, of course, and the terrible hairdos, which I think Chekhov took the cake there with the hairdo. But anyway, so I thought it was interesting that they were aiming for the images that you might have in your subconscious and trying to the aliens were actually reaching for humanity's subconscious and projecting those subconscious thoughts into the world. You have a black cat, which is supposedly a symbol of bad luck in Western culture. You have witches and these witches look terrifying, honestly. You have a
Hmm,
castle that looks really dark and ominous. You have all of those things, and then you have the
hmm,
Iron Maiden, which is a torture instrument. You have these
hmm,
shackles, and Kirk and the crew find themselves shackled and they're not able to move. You find skeletons. So
hmm.
apparently, the aliens have this very nice habit of reaching into the subconscious and pulling out everything dark and unpleasant in a. What was their purpose exactly? How do you study humanity by showing them the darkest thoughts? I don't know, but apparently that is what they were trying to do.
This
Yeah.
sort of the cage episode, right?
Yes,
Where
true.
they bring out the worst fears and try to project it. The aliens did that in Cage.
True.
And also the Square of Gothos,
Did that.
where he gets information which is wrong and tries to represent it. It looks anachronistic or it's out of place. It is missing a few details and it's meant to scare them, but it's
Yeah.
not really doing the trick that it's supposed to.
Yep, that's true. I think both the Talusians of the
Hmm.
cage and Trelane of the Square of Gothas had better reasons than these two aliens of Catspaw.
Correct.
These two seem to be dithering all the time. They talk about
Right.
old ones who sent them there to study humanity. They are from
Yep.
another galaxy and they've come all the way here to study humanity. Why not the Vulcans? I think they would have been a better test subject.
Why not go to a planet where there are plenty of humans? If you are
Yeah,
studying them, go to Earth. There are
true.
plenty of them,
Plenty of
billions
them.
of them.
Millions, billions. There are so many of them. Go to the Federation and scare the daylights out of them. Show them something that would really scare them. Instead, you lure the ship to an uninhabited planet. You get three humans, and then what do? You scare them. You show them very irritating witches who keep repeating things, and you warn them about curses. And then you talk about them having integrity, honor, and loyalty. You confuse
Hmm.
them, and then one of the aliens decides to take on the form of a black cat. What was that for
Hmm.
exactly? I think there were too many elements here which might have worked had they explained it a bit better.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think that's what you're missing, the explanation, the
true.
motivation for them. If that had been properly exposed, then I'm trying to still make sense of the whole thing. So if they had said that this is like, I think later this by any other name, right? So
Mm.
in that episode, the Kelvins, they
Yeah.
come with the main intention of conquering, right? So
Yes.
they need a planet, whichever is the nearest one, we're going to take it. Whoever is a species, we're going to just conquer them. So that's
True.
their main motive. We understand the motive. Square of
Exactly.
Gothos, he's having fun. He's a kid,
He's a
right?
kid.
So not in our standards, but he is a kid all
He's
the
a
same.
kid.
Talosians, they need specimen because they are running a big zoo of aliens play things, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So we get the motivation, but these guys are a enigma till the very end. Even when they died, I'm like, oh, whoa, whoa, go tell me why we are here. Don't
Yes.
just melt away.
I know. I mean, you didn't give us any explanation of what you're doing, and I'm beginning to doubt that they know themselves. They seem so
Yes,
confused. What is all of that about sensation? They don't have the same emotions as humans do.
correct.
But assuming human forms has somehow given them human emotions, which is later explored with the Kelvins also. But
Yes.
the Kelvins did it better. These
Yeah.
two, they're constantly at loggerheads with each other. They confuse each other
Hmm.
a lot. And
Hmm.
the one thing, Bala, that I did find quite interesting was Sylvia's reference to sympathetic magic. From what I can
Hmm.
understand, technology is so advanced that to a lesser
Hmm.
advanced race, whatever they do will look like magic. So, to quote Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently advanced technology will look like magic. These creatures who have assumed human forms, they look like a witch and a wizard, they
Hmm.
have so much technology at their disposal that it looks like magic, but it's not. It's some sort
Hmm.
of technology. I thought that was interesting, and I wish we'd explored that a little bit more. Her holding a model of the Enterprise over a candle flame was actually quite effective because up there
Yes.
in orbit, the
Yes.
Enterprise was also heating up.
Yes, that part I liked it. I'm going to quote Thor from the Avengers series. He
Mm,
also talks about how when science is so advanced, seems you lose the difference between magic and science. So
exactly.
so I think that's what is happening here also
Mm,
for humans who are not advanced, see it as magic, but it's a transmutation of one type of power to another. So
yes.
matter to energy and energy to matter, I guess. So something like that. So it seems like voodoo type of a thing for us, but for them it
Mm,
is not.
it's nothing.
Uh,
It's something they do.
Kirk employing this whole idea of getting to know her personally,
Mm,
and he has certain charm, and he seems to be using that. And she realizes, oh, you've been using me, and it sounds
yes.
artificial. And I didn't quite appreciate that at the end. It seemed all very silly. She's trying out outfit after outfit, and then she says, "Oh, look at me, what I can do."
She doesn't have her wits about her. She's just so idiotic most of the time. And Kirk too. I mean, I don't know what he was doing exactly. I didn't
Right.
know those scenes. I don't think I appreciated at all. They were just so hackneyed and they made no
Hmm.
sense. And
Yes.
frankly, it was a little bit irritating to watch that. And then suddenly, Sylvia has this idea that she's being toyed with. She herself doesn't know what she's confused. You're confused along with her because you don't know
Hmm.
why they're behaving the way they do. Everything was just so, to quote Spock, illogical.
Yes. Absolutely. I think of this entire episode as Halloween in space, where there's frequent references. I think in the first act itself, the black cat crossing, trick or treat kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And Kirk even tries to explain the whole Halloween thing to Spock, and he doesn't get it. So it's all some sort of a reference to that. I don't know. That's what it seemed like. That's what they going for that, but maybe they were.
I think it is the Halloween episode. Looking at Memory Alpha, it does confirm that. But somehow it falls short of being an actual Halloween episode because by the end you don't know what you just watched. It wasn't exactly convincing. If they wanted to create a Halloween episode, maybe they should have just stuck to one or two things. Perhaps the
Hmm.
witches and some sort of a dungeon that might have done.
Hmm.
Instead, you have
Hmm.
witches, wizards, a transmuter, a cat, and a woman who turns into a cat, and then you have an evil woman. It's
Hmm.
all of it. What is really lacking is the motivation for these aliens. You
Yes.
don't know why they do what they did, and at the same time, they're dithering. They have no sense of clarity. They offer some explanations about the old ones, and what are the old ones? Are they some sort of elder?
So we
Yeah.
are left in the dark in that respect also. It is goes straight for your subconscious, right? So I think that it is reasonable, the idea, and whatever explanation we get it. There is no new concept except the fact that everything is a manifestation of the subconscious. Is that the
Yes.
scientific concept that usually this is what I've heard from William Shatner's interview that each episode took a scientific concept and they would weave this story around that concept. So all the episodes seem to be, parallel universe, less evolved civilization, and how they're struggling with technology, or the influence of an external civilization. They take some kind of concept and explore that. And there's, of course, a commentary also. But
Yeah.
I missed it maybe, or the science concept also I missed it maybe, but I can't find either of them in this. So to me, it's all right as a Halloween in Space
Mm.
episode, but not a Star Trek episode where the commentary and the scientific concepts are missing.
Actually, the idea of a collective unconscious and reaching into the subconscious to find shadow images and forcing these characters to explore their shadow selves might have been an excellent idea to explore. This is very good that an
Mm,
alien race, instead of trying to attack them with phasers or lasers or atomic weapons, they are
mm,
reaching into the mind and drawing things out from the recesses of the mind, bombarding humans with it. Might have been a very intriguing concept. Instead, as with our Lazarus episode, the ideas are there, the execution hasn't been the best. And because the
correct.
idea by itself is so utterly unique, Bala, I felt that, that the
Mm,
aliens are so alien, they're using a technique that's completely different from what you would expect. Instead of
mm.
just coming over and invading them, they're reaching into some sort of collective mind that humanity might have and drawing things out from there. That's very interesting. I just wish it was executed better.
So, are they treating? I'm just trying to explore this. Let's say when we study plants or animals, right?
Yeah.
So, we don't create environments special. Maybe we do. Like when we take a cow we give it an environment that the cow can survive
Yeah.
and can appreciate and finds it familiar,
Yeah.
and to study it. Maybe, and that's the castle and all the stuff around it. That's the equivalent. And but we are studying it so that we can, I'm trying to draw a parallel between what we do with our specimen to what they were trying to do with the humans.
Mm.
So when we are trying to study them,
Yeah.
we want something in return. For, let's say, the cow, it's milk and for or meat, and in the aliens case it is the dream, their imagination. That's what they're saying at the end. So
Yeah.
Sylvia says, I want your imagination, I want something else, and then we can be invincible together. She starts off with.
Yes, she does want the human ability to feel and to experience sensation, as she calls it. She wants to feel everything. She wants to feel excitement, lust, romance, and that sense of power that she gets. These emotions are new for these alien creatures. But I did think it was a little dumb to reach out into humanity's subconscious and pick out the darkest parts. If they wanted to connect with humanity, I would think that you'd reach for something more bright or light. You pick out the scariest things that humanity has ever created, recreate that, and talk about connecting with them, exploring, experiencing sensation with them. It was a bit.
Right. So Sylvia is the one who's now twisted into
Yes,
doing all this. She's
correct.
torturing specimens and she likes these new senses, which means that's not their original mission. If that's not the, now I'm completely confused. I thought I had a handle on this. So if that's not what they want, then
Yeah.
what do they want from the humans? So
Yeah.
they're just studying them to find out what they want.
Yeah, they're just studying them or they're toying with them or they just want to impress them. Well, okay, I'm impressed with the wizard robes. That's about it though. What else were they trying to do?
So
Point. Yeah,
Korab tries to give them food,
exactly.
riches.
Yeah.
He's from the psychology department, so he's trying to find out how humans behave
Ah,
when given the riches
exactly.
and the food and all that.
And then he gave them
But that's not
gemstones.
Sylvia's mission.
True,
Ah,
Sylvia has changed her mind. She wants to dominate. And
ah.
basically, I don't know if constantly changing to into a cat damaged her psyche in some way. Because by the end, the cat turns into something like a saber-toothed tiger, like you said, and some sort of monstrosity. She's growling
Hmm.
and snarling. Why would she do that if she has so much power that she can hypnotize these humans so quickly as she did for McCoy
Ah.
and Sulu? Why does she
Yes,
want to turn
yes.
into a big, huge cat and try to swipe at them? It makes no sense.
Is
Yeah.
that because Korob has the transmuter and she has very little control over it now?
I'm not
Doesn't she
sure.
have the
She,
medallion which is supposed to be the other
yes.
transmitter? No.
No, I mean, she, even if she doesn't have the transmuter with her, she's still able to shape shift. So she does have power, then why does she want to get the transmuter back? It is
No, I'm
so up
guessing
in
it's
the
like
air.
the transmitter is like Wi-Fi, right? So yeah, there's a
True.
certain range in which it operates, and so she's only able to go from a small cat to a
Cat.
larger cat, but she wants more to do
I
something
mean,
else.
why doesn't, and I mean, if she had just turned into a dragon, she could have solved everything quite quickly.
Yes,
Yeah,
one
well,
swipe and all these three weaklings would have been destroyed. And anyway, this is all something that they created, right? The door and everything.
exactly.
One swipe at it and the whole thing would have fallen down, or she could have changed all of that into
True.
something else. So numerous plot holes, I think.
I kept wondering if she could change shape that quickly. Come on, woman, you turn into a dragon, that'll be good for you. And it's going to scare them completely. Instead, she's
Correct.
just a cat, a big cat, and quite a useless big cat because you can't get through the door and doesn't strike her to shrink back into size and come through the door. Yeah.
And they could actually be moved at will, right? When first time Kirk, Spock, and McCoy enter and
Yes.
they're about to attack Scott and Sulu, the
Yeah.
next second they're in that other room. They're not in the
Exactly.
dungeon anymore,
And it
right?
happens more than once, I think. They find themselves back in the dungeon also, shackled.
Correct. That's all happens just like that. I
So
think
then,
they can change the scenery so quickly. But how come she's not able to do it now?
mm,
Once Korob is switched sides, she's not able to do that
exactly.
anymore.
So, and there was also a problem with them getting transported back into the dungeon just like that in the blink of an eye. Why does Sulu have to come in with the key? Obviously, the shackles don't
Yeah,
need the key. And then
yeah.
all of it just starts turning more bizarre as the episode goes on. I And what is the point of Sylvia? She wants to experience sensation, she wants power, and then at the
Mm,
same time, she is so naive that
mm,
she thinks that Kirk has feelings for her. Now, for a creature that is able to probe minds as she does, for a
mm,
creature that can, turn people into puppets so quickly, she's extraordinarily naive. If she had probed Kirk's mind just a little bit, she would have known that he's bluffing. Instead,
mm.
we have another plot hole there where she acts like some sort of a
No, but her
foolish.
probe goes into the subconscious. That's the conscious part of the brain, so which she
Maybe,
missed, right?
maybe. Okay, we can take that as a good one. Yeah.
Uh, because she said, but no, I take that back because when she says,
You did? You
"Oh,
took it
this
back?
one, this one you seem to like, but this one you don't," by just my mind, she's able to mind read her. See the different
Yes,
costumes that she goes through, and she says, "Oh yeah, you seem to like that one, but no, you seem to not
like this
expect
one.
this.
And so if
Maybe
she can't tell the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind.
that may be it,
Yeah,
right?"
it could be because she's not used to the human mind. I mean, she can manipulate it, but she's still not
Hmm.
used to it. So maybe everything turned utterly confusing for her.
Going to give you an analogy. So let's imagine a book is right in front of you,
Okay,
and you have the ability to
okay.
read the entire book as if it were transparent. So you don't know whether the text is in the seventh page or in the 155th page. To you,
So you see
you're
throwing it.
seeing
Yeah,
it. And when you reach out, you're going into the 155th page.
yeah.
When you thought you were reaching the seventh page, that's the problem that these aliens.
Actually, a very good point. Yes, maybe that's what happened to her. She cannot comprehend that the human mind has many layers and
Hmm.
thoughts can be controlled. She is confused. She's so caught up in her own ambition, she doesn't see what she would have seen had she been thinking clearly.
Now, Spock's mind should have been easier to read if it's a well
Yes,
organized book instead of random words and thoughts here and there.
yes, that
Spock
was
should have been easier mind to read.
true. That was the first thing that struck me when I saw it. Why would you go into the chaotic minds of the humans? the you have the Vulcans who are just so organized and they will be far easier to manipulate. Instead, you come from another galaxy, pick out the most chaotic race in the galaxy and try to mind probe them, and then you lose your
Yeah,
own mind.
yeah.
Naturally, I mean,
Good point. I think those guys need to analyze the Vulcan one.
yes, they're so
Yeah.
organized. You can read their mind far quicker. Everything is in little folders in their head.
Yes.
Yes,
And indexed.
and indexed little folders. You just have to retrieve those folders and then do whatever you
And you're
want
done.
instead.
Right. And you're done.
Yeah.
Our Stan would have been a perfect candidate.
Oh yes, he would have been perfect. You know, he's muscle bound and he's absolutely organized. I think he would have been a prime
Oh,
target for
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. That would have been amazing. Anyways, I'm done. This is what I think of the episode. I'm actually done with my analysis. I don't have anything else to add to this.
Me neither. Nothing to add. We've talked
Yeah,
about everything.
yeah. So we'll get to the likes and dislikes. I'll go first this time.
Oh
This
yes.
I think this is a very amusing Halloween episode. Just that it happened to be in space. That's all I have. What I really liked was when it ended, and I saw the ending credits. I really liked it. Then the three witches, the opera
Hmm.
style or the bad poetry, that was
Yeah.
also something I really liked. It's
Yeah.
almost sounded like an opera, so all that was something that I totally enjoyed. Dislikes, I think we talked about this whole sensation, and I think probably this is a precursor to that Kelvin episode, by
Yes.
any
That was
other
done a lot
name.
better.
So
Mm.
yes, so I think probably this is a precursor to that, and it really helped them write that script. The wands and the voodoo and all that, I did not really appreciate it. Suddenly, they have this acrylic around the spaceship model. Yes,
Yes.
the old ones were a complete mystery. I mean, suddenly
Absolute
out of the
mystery.
blue, there's this old ones, and they
And you'll
become
have to
these
guess with
puppets.
true. You'll have to guess with what they are and what are these old
Yes.
ones and why.
So for me, there are a lot of dislikes. It was amusing. Very honestly, I think when I checked the time, it was 42 minutes into the episode, which means
Uh-huh.
it's quite okay. So it was not. I thought I'm going to be thoroughly bored when
Yeah.
I remember seeing it, but I actually saw the time was 42 minutes,
Mm.
and I knew there were only a couple of more minutes to end the episode. So not
Yeah.
bad that way. Keeps you going. What about you,
Yeah.
Parvati?
I liked the idea that the technology is so advanced that it can be mistaken for magic. And I like the idea that she was talking about sympathetic magic and the fact that she is able to manipulate the Enterprise from down here just by using a model of the Enterprise. That is very magic like. But I did not like how poorly this was executed. I did not like that these aliens had very shaky motivations for doing what they do, and the lack of explanations bothered me throughout this episode. I couldn't figure out what was happening. I do not know why Sylvia felt the need to turn into a cat and not something a lot more dramatic with pyrotechnics, perhaps. Instead, she's just becoming a big cat, then a little cat, and then Sylvia again. A waste of a shape shifting talent, honestly. And I wish they would just rewrite the whole thing because it it had potential. There's a lot of potential. These aliens are so alien that they reach into the subconscious of the human mind. I think that is a very good idea.
Hmm,
Again, the execution was really bad, Bal. I was so disappointed with it that way.
hmm. Okay.
So yeah, I really would like them to redo it.
All right. So, what are the lessons we can learn as authors as to what to do and what not to do from a script
Yeah.
like this? Yes.
You know what I think personally? Just because you have a lot of ideas does not mean you have to execute all of them into one story. That's the first thing
Okay.
I thought of when I was watching this episode. Each time you sit down to write a story, you will have about 10 million ideas running through your head. There is no need to try and put all of them into one tale. And I think
Hmm,
that's what this episode did wrong. There were too many things. They could have cut down on some.
hmm.
And the strongest point of this episode is the subconscious idea. They should have explored that further. They got sidetracked with witches, echoes, cats, and Korob in a wizard's dress. It became a little too meandering. What about you, Bala?
I think the core three things were missing out of the
Mm-hmm.
story, which I've already highlighted.
Yeah.
One is the science. This is science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, get that one concept and focus only on that. The second is the commentary, because it's customary to have it in this format. We are now in the second season. So we already know that they have a commentary on existing society and how it operates.
Yeah.
The third one is, even if it's a bad guy, give them a good motivation as to
Exactly.
why they do certain. Just don't make them pure bad, pure evil. As the episode is, there's only dark and dark tones and dark, everything dark. But why they doing what they're doing is essential for an antagonist as well.
The biggest,
So for me,
yeah,
these are the three learnings that I take away from this.
take here they made is, even if you wish to keep the motivations of the aliens secret or enigmatic, you should somehow express that instead of making it confusing. If the aliens have motivations that are so far beyond human comprehension, say that in some form. If you give a vague explanation here, and then you
Hmm.
have the aliens say a couple of things that make absolutely no sense, and then you have them talk about some sort of old ones which that isn't explained either, infuriating.
Right. Like Square of Gothos, he says, "Oh, but that was so much fun." So
Exactly.
he just ends with that. Or like the Metrons say, "Oh, there's still hope. In 1,000 years or so, you'll understand what's going on."
Exactly. So there's hope.
So yeah, they're so
They're
advanced
like
that
that.
for us,
Yes, they're
or
like
the
that.
Arganians, they say, "I want an end to this violence. However, meaningful for you it is. It's violence, so it has to end." So we
Exactly.
know clearly what's going on.
Just tell us. Say that it is so beyond human comprehension that we don't know
Hmm.
what it is. Say it instead of yeah.
But instead, all we have is Spock lamenting that this specimen just melted away, and we don't have anything to study.
That's all he says. Spock could have done a lot more here instead of
Yeah, yeah.
he was a bit in the background. The best
Yeah.
dialogue of his that I liked was probably him saying a little more alacrity, Captain.
Or bad poetry.
Oh yeah, bad poetry. That is good.
Yes. Little more alacrity. Yes, I remember that one. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much, Parvati, for the analysis on Catspaw. And we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you and bye.
Bye everyone.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening to the podcast Enterprise. Please do share your reviews with us, and please share this podcast with any of your writing friends or trickies. Live long and prosper.